Hello, hello, hello. How is it going, everybody? For some reason, this is my third take, so we'll try to get this. Today is Sunday. I'm not sure the date. I think it's the day after. The day after, I think we had a burial. We had a funeral. Every occasion, I'll be ready for the funeral, but I don't know. I wasn't ready for this. We were going to talk about that actually, but yeah, it's a Sunday, and so yeah. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to 511 Thoughts. I was before I realized I had stopped recording. I was talking about how it's always nice to see the viewership growing, and so I figured that it's not the only thing. I'm just kidding, just kidding, please. But it's always like, but as I'm saying right now, basically like if I get to a certain level, I'll start trying to put in special effects, right? If I get to a certain level, I'll start fixing the thumbnails. The special effects will become before the thumbnails, right? So we love special effects. I mean, I'm special, so I have an effect that I'm special, right? But as you can see, I'm not in a bad mood, so it's pretty good. But it's and you might ask, why is he not in a bad mood? Well, he's not in a bad mood because it's actually Sunday, and it's a pretty fun day actually. So, how was my day? Well, my day was spent out and about, obviously, um, and it was spent doing. I went to the park, right? So that was very nice. It was very crowded at the park, which is always very it's good because it gives you some sense of excitement, but it's not like a sort of event related excitement. So it's never I don't know, like there's good crowds and there's bad crowds, right? You got to stay away from the bad crowds. And not that this was a bad crowd, but I'm just saying like it was kind of like the fact that it was crowded didn't actually like help me enjoy it any better than if it hadn't have been crowded, is what I'm saying. It was beautiful, right? Beautiful spring day, right? Like mid 70s, so perfect weather, right? Perfect day, everything. It's hard to feel sad today, right? Like it's one of those things. But that's interesting because now I lost my train of thought. So let's note here, right, that I lost my train of thought as I'm trying to expand on the day and how it went. That's interesting. I think there's sort of a there's a what am I looking for? There's a tendency to sort of not expand. I don't like to expand. The one thing you know about me. I was going to talk about so hopefully everybody's day is going well. I was going to talk about crowds, right? Because I realized I was thinking about the crowds just now made me realize the lengths I go to not disturb sort of the crowd, right? It's very interesting because like if you're one of those people who you're in a big crowd, you're in a room, right? And you're sort of like you don't want to do anything for fear of sort of disturbing the crowd, right? So you see those. There's examples where the person like they're in a quiet room and they don't want to like if you're taking a test. A lot of the examples have to do with like school and taking tests, right? And it's sort of like, oh, I don't want to, put my eraser too loud, right? And so they'll like not erase and get the problem wrong, like whatever, right? Because they didn't want to sort of disturb the crowd. I think that definitely that characterizes me for sure, right? I'm one of those people that I don't like to disturb God. And so yeah, here there's sort of the crowd, but there's also the idea that you kind of want to go around them rather than sort of in between them, right? So stereotype, there's a stereotype that you may think of me and you may say, well, he wants to draw attention to himself. And I think subconsciously maybe, but consciously not really, right? So, but that's that. And then the other big thing I want to talk about, which is I was thinking because I was actually at the park with a friend, right, and we were talking about he's a guy, he's an interesting character study himself, and I was going to talk about him maybe for the last time on these 511 thoughts. I mean, for the last segment of these 511 thoughts, it's interesting because he's a guy that's like really quiet, much quieter than me, right? So he's like on the quiet spectrum, he's very, very quiet, right? So, or at me, I don't know if you consider me quiet. I feel like I tend to, once I get going, I can get revved up, but otherwise, not really. But I mean, in other words, like I'm talkative one on one, but not talkative in a group. I guess what I'm saying. But anyway, so this guy's really quiet, and my relationship with him is basically predicated on our common interest of sports, right? So as you know, right? So we had a passing, last night, right? Not that I'm not a big fan of either team, right? I don't know if I want to say the team's name, but the point is that obviously it was the basketball, right? So I'm a big basketball fan, and my friend is a big basketball fan as well. And we talk about that, and that characterizes our, like I said, that's our sort of friendship. And it's interesting because he's such an unassuming person, right? And he's very quiet, he's very reserved, right? Much more reserved than I'll probably ever be. But he's so good at predicting stuff. And it made me realize like how I'm probably like I don't necessarily like I've never really thought about like whether I'm good or bad, but it certainly is the case that whenever I'm called upon to make a prediction, especially in sports, I just can't do it. It's so interesting, and whereas my friend, sometimes like he'll never like he does like because he's so reserved, he doesn't really like comment on my lack of prediction skills. But other friends in the past have always said, "Oh, you're so you be so wrong," because it's tough for me. And for me, it's a very sort of, well, I don't know. In other words, like I think to myself, well, I don't know. How do I choose between these two teams, to whatever? And so it's just interesting because it's so weird because you think that because as far as I know, he doesn't make a living with predictions, right? However, he seems like he could, because I'm telling you, he's really good. Like he knew that last night would be the final night, and it was just so interesting. Hindsight, he was like he got it spot on, and he usually does. And it's interesting because I do think that there's the quiet reserve. He's the type of person that can fix things around your. He's a very handyman, but he's very certain in his predictions, and he's right often. Like more, like I said, I think he's very good. And it's funny because I don't think I have any of that, right? So I don't necessarily have the handyman skills, right? And I also don't like, if you want me to predict, I can tell you sort of, what I think. It's either going to be A or B, but ask me to choose between A or B, it's going to be different. So I just think that's interesting because at a very fundamental level, I think it does highlight the differences. And I think we talk about all of the ways that people present themselves in terms of special talents. And I have to say, I think the thing I most admire is that ability to be so certain in your predictions and correct, right? So I was thinking to myself as I was starting this 511, I was like, what am I going to do, right? So I will predict, right? I'm going to make a prediction. Well, first, see, because you can't make a prediction about yourself. I was going to say, I bet you a year from now, I will be still making these videos. Now, whether they're of the same form or not, I don't know. But I do want to, not only do I want this series in particular to last 250 videos, but I also want to still be making videos in 2023, right? So it'll be 2023. So we'll see what happens. Now, what's the future of this channel? I will predict that I don't necessarily think it's going to go very like I don't know that it'll explode in terms of like its popularity, right? We'll see if I can get, because it's interesting because like other than retitling the videos and making my videos more interesting, obviously, I don't think there's any way to reach out to people, right? And I'm not trying to complain about that, but it is interesting. So I guess my question of the day is sort of, how are you guys at predicting in general? And give me a prediction, right? So I'll predict that for myself, something I can control. I want to still be making videos, right? Maybe not daily, but certainly videos in general. And then another prediction that I'll have is I predict that. Um, I predict that. See, and you hesitate, right? I'm looking at the time. I'm like, the time's run out. I don't have to give a prediction. Let me see. I'm trying to think of a prediction that's kind of generic, but also will say something. What? So maybe a segment of 511 thoughts. I have to give a prediction every day. I predict that in the year 2024, we will see a changing of the guard. Right. That's what I predict. One way, one thing or another. We'll just see a changing of the guard. We'll see what happens. I predict that, and so that's my prediction to the day. And yeah, I hope everyone is having a good Sunday. Pretty good day today. Just like I said, made me realize. Just it's so interesting to me because you sort of think about this stuff, and then you just see it so clearly. In practice, right? So life's just a practice, right? Life's a journey. Anyway, all right. Have a good one, guys. Bye.